Okay, Tov. We got up to page Kuf Lamed, which is Simon Chaf Os Dal, and we're going to study first and foremost Chidushay Rabbi Kiveger, and this appears on our daf here in Pesachim, on daf Kuf Ches, where he quotes the Rif from the third parak of Moed Katan, and the brisa there in Moed Katan daf Tezvav and Beis establishes that Menudeh ke'ovel. That means that if a person is put into nidui because he defies and rejects the authority of the Chachamim, then he has the same status as an Ovel. But the Gemara is not sure if all the Isurei Ovel, which are called the Inui, the five categories of Inui, all as one entity apply to a Menudeh. For example, an Ovel is not allowed to wear shoes during his Shivas Yimei Avelus. That's called the Isur of the Ilas HaSandal. And the question is, we know that a Menudeh is not allowed to wear sandals. He's got to go barefoot. But that's only one dimension of the Isurei Ovel. What about, for example, Rechitza? Does he have the same status as an Ovel as far as Rechitza is concerned? So we have two Sfekos in regard to a Menudeh. Safek number one is whether or not he is enjoined from the Ilas HaSandal, and Safek number two, is he enjoined like an Ovel from Rechitza? And the Rif Paskins Lekula in both cases, under the premise that we can apply the principle of Safek DeRabanan Lahakel both with regard to the Isur of Nilas HaSandal and with regard to the Isur Rechitza as well. And Rabbi Kiveger doesn't understand how the Rif can activate Safek Nefesh Lahakel twice, because then for sure, if he's wearing regular shoes and if he washes his body the regular way, then he's certainly not being noeg nidui, neither according to this Madiomer nor according to that Madiomer. Because if you take both kulos, then for sure you are completely undermining the mitzvah of nidui, or shall we say the isur of nidui. And therefore, Rabbi Kiveger says that just like the Ran says we cannot be mekil on both sets of Daled Kosos, but rather we're going to require Heseb on all four Kosos, both sets, because either way, if he does Heseb in the first two, then he violates according to the second Mandiyom, and if he does Heseb on the second set of Kosos, then he violates the Mandiyomar who requires Heseb on the first set of Kosos. And since, therefore, he will definitely, by omitting Heseb on all four Kosos, he will undermine and violate the takot of Heseb with regard to Daled Kosos, no matter which way you cut the cake, then the same thing should apply here in regards to a Menudeh. And what the Amudei Hod is going to try to do now is he's going to try to demonstrate that that Rabbi Kiveger, in his underlying premise is assuming X, but the way we interpreted the Ran, it's not X. And that you'll see on page Kuf Lamed Aleph. Rabbi Kiveger understood in the Ran that the reason why we can't be Mekil on all four Kosos is because it's certain that he will do Shalom Kahogan and he will be Mevatel the Takonis Chacham of Heseb, because either he has a requirement to Heseb in the first two or in the last two. If he leaves them out in both sets of Kosos, then he has definitely undermined and violated the Takana of Heseb and Daled Kosos. However, we could interpret the Ran differently. The Ran, when he presents the possibility of being mekil with regard to Haseb and Daled Kosos, he analyzes it from two different perspectives. On the one hand, we could apply the principle of Hachra, and that would mean that we would definitely assume Lakula when we apply Safek DeRabanan Lakula as a Vadai. And the Ran rejects that because he says that in Daled Kosos we really cannot be Machriya the Safek, because whichever way you choose, you'll be arbitrarily choosing one over the other. And there's no compelling logic to be Machriya the Safek vis-a-vis one set of Kosos as opposed to the other set of Kosos. But then the Ran says, well, let's leave out Hachra, and let's, instead of Hachra, instead of determining Bevadai, and be Machriya the Safek in one direction or another, let's offer another possibility. Let's just be Noeg L'Kula, will allow you and permit you to be more lenient because it's a Safek DeRabanan. We'll do that on every set of Daled Kosos. And then we're not involved in violating and undermining the obligation of Heseba with regard to Daled Kosos, which is being Noeg L'Kula here and there in every case, in every Safek as we approach it. The Ran rejects that approach of Nihug because he says that if he'll apply the Nihug L'Kula on all four Kosos, he'll end up undermining the entire takana of Heseba of Daled Kosos. And that's because the Ran is of the opinion that we take the Daled Kosos as one entity, and there was one takana with regard to Daled Kosos, and therefore if you're going to be Noeg L'Kula on this set, and then you're going to be Noeg L'Kula once again on the other set, you'll end up without any fulfillment whatsoever, no kiyum of the takanas chachamim. And he says here in Chav Gimel, Hine Yeshlomer Dil Shnei Atamim, Einav Sheyachim Kan B'Menudeh. Neither of the two approaches of the Ran and his definitions will apply in the case of Menudeh, someone who's in Nidui. Why? Because we could be Machriya the Safek with regard to both Rechitza and Ilas Hasandal. We'll say they're equal. Umikomakom ein kan Safek echad ditiknu lahashvos din Menudeh li'avel. There's no one particular takana that equates the laws of Menudeh with those of an Avel. We don't know where is the overlap between Nidui and Avel. So we have two different Sfekos. One Safek with regard to the Isur of Nilas Hasandal, the other with regard to the Isur of Rechitza. And we don't know in any of those cases whether or not there's an overlap in which we establish that the status of Menudeh is a mirror image of that of an oven. We know that one of the two, whether it be Nilas Hasandal or Rechitza, we don't know which, but one of the two were established for the Menudeh. Akufa Svekos Havi Shnei Svekos Nifradim. Each Safek stands on its own, independent of the other Safek. We're going to ask the question with regard to Ne'ilas Hasandal and the same question with regard to Rechitza, but each question stands on its own. And therefore, if each question and each issue is independent, then with regard to each issue, we could be Machriya the Safek and say for sure he's not Chayev as a Menudeh in Nilas Hasandal, and then take up the Safek with regard to Rechitza, he's not Chayev in Rechitza. V'chein letzad dekom demikara takonas chacham v'gamri lo da'inin sfek DeRabanan l'kuliye shlomar v'zed afka b'nidan the dalikos sheish l'takona v'adois lo hasev v'beis midot dalikoska shalo yisam v'klum v'adit tispat l'tana, and therefore we don't use Safek DeRabanan l'kula. But l'gabi Menudeh leka shum takona v'adois. I'm not sure what he means by that. Leka shum takona v'adois. The takonas Isurei chitza havirak Safek im nitkena. V'chein takonas Isur nilas sandal. Again, Safek im nitkena. V'lachein afim yinog hete b'shneim ein takona v'adois shebetela. V'shape yochel linog lekula. I think what he's saying is that it's very possible that with regard to Menudeh, Chachamim did not make a takana that imposed the laws of Avel and the Isurei Avel on the Menudeh. We could ask the question whether they made a takana like that with regard to Menudeh and Nilas Asandal. We could ask the question whether they made a takana equating Menudeh to Avel with regard to Rechitza. But there's no absolute definite in the premise that there is a dimension of Isur Avel that applies to Menudeh. And it's quite possible that this is a null set, and the Rabbanan never ever took the Isurim of an Avel and imposed them on a Menudeh. It's possible that never happened. So therefore, either, or I should say neither of the two approaches of the Ran to the issue of Heseba B'Dalet Kosos will have any bearing in the case of Menudeh. And now we get to the main part of our discussion, and that is Tiveria, as I call it. Kosav Aran b'Perkama de Megillah le'inyan ayoral samasupokos, with regard to those cities that are in doubt. Imei mukafu michomas choma mimos Yeshua ben Nun olo. So we don't know if those cities have the status of a krach, of an ira mukefes choma mimos Yeshua, and have to read the Megillah on the 15th. Horu hagaonim zichronim levracha sheholchem bohem achar rov ayoros. The Gaonim said it depends on the rov of the cities. And Ruban Eina Mukafas Chomos Yeshua. Most cities were not walled from the time of Yeshua. V'koreh b'hen v'yadalit. And they certainly will read on the 14th of Nisan. V'od shafilu tomar shu Safek shakul. And even if you'll come up with a scenario, which is hard to believe, hard to imagine, that 50% of all the cities were actually walled at the time of Yoshua, and therefore when we get to the city that has a Safek, we're really in a 50-50 situation. We can't apply the principle of Rov. Havile Safek shall devreim ulakula will have to be Mekil because of a Safek DeRabanan. The mitzvah of Megillah is only DeRabanan. But Nimtza Potros B'Shneim. So the Ran is raising the question that if you're going to apply Safek DeRabanan L'Kula both on the 4th day, maybe they belong to the Krachim, or Safek DeRabanan L'Kula on the 15th of Nisan, because maybe they belong to the Prazim. Well, then you're left without any Kriyas of Megillah in those cities that are Mesupakos. You'll pattern them up on both the 14th and the 15th. Mikra Megillah. Is leficha korei barishonu potu b'sheni. Okay, so at this point, you can apply either rov or even a Safek shakul, and you end up with a Safek DeRabanan ulakul. So that would mean that they don't have to read the Megillah at all, not on the 14th nor on the 15th. Now we have a vadai. Until now we had a Safek. And now we have a vadai that he was not Makayim the mitzvah Megillah because he didn't read neither on the 14th or the 15th. And therefore, he should read on the 14th, and he will not have to read on the 15th. And now he quotes the Gemara Daf Hey in Masechet Megillah, and it says there, Tveria v'Hutzal. I guess these are the cities that were in Safek. Hayikorim ben Barbasar ubechamisasar. They read it twice on the 14th and the 15th. The Midas Chasidus Hayunoginke. In other words, why did they have to read the Megillah not only on the 14th, but also on the 15th? It should have been sufficient if they read the Megillah on the first of those two opportunities, meaning on the 14th. Why did they have to read the Megillah a second time on the 15th? So he says that was only Midas Chasidus, not Mikar Adin. The Tferia D'Talia b'Meganya u'Mechasya. U'Behutzal b'Pnei Shayu Nechlokim ba b'Kabbalas Zelmer Ukefes Zelmer Einam Ukefes. So I guess in the case of Tveria, we're not sure about the wall, whether it protected them completely. In the case of Hutzal, there are two opinions as to whether or not there was a wall around Hutzal or there was not. V'hayukorim on page Kuflam and Beis on the top, Hayukorim below bracha. They could not make a bracha because Safek Divreim lo boy bruchen. We don't make a bracha in a Safek situation. El Sharoy Levarach Barbasa. They should be making a bracha on the 14th. And why is that? They shall holchem achar rov ha'olam. It's interesting that he says rov ha'olam, most cities of the world. I mean, until now, I thought he was talking within the confines of Eretz Yisrael. I don't know. But Rambam Zal Kosev Perek Hey, Mehilchos Megillah, or maybe it should be Perek Aleph. Korim ba b'shnei hayomim u'b'leileim, aval ein mevarch al kriyasa ela b'yidal. Hol v'uzman kriya l'rov ha'olam. So we should recite a bracha on the 14th, but not on the 15th, and that's based on Rov Ha'olam. So this is a long quote verbatim from the Ran. And now in Chafei he says, "V'divrei Ran tzrichim bir, dehine mashakosav Ran b'shem ha'gaonim devayoros ha'mesupakos karim v'yidal mishum sholchem be'machar rov, v'rov ha'yoros Einon mukafos choma mimos Yoshua ben Nun. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what he's going to ask without looking. There's no way you could say that any city belongs to the Rove because each city stands on its own and is not influenced by the cities around it. And that's called kol kavua kemechtal mechtzadam. Torch biur arei hayaros kvuos v'mkomon. Now we're not talking about a parish situation where something jumped out of the mokum kviyus. The kaimel of the kol kavua kemechtal mechtzal v'en holchem kavua acharo. So that's the principle called kol kavua kemechtal mechtzal. When the Safek is nolad in a mokum kviyus, then it's kemechtal mechtzadam. It came lama amra gaonim dayaros mesupakas korin v'yudalid mishum derov ayaros mukafas chom v'osi Yeshua Menudeh. How do the gaonim rely on rov when it's a case of kavua, not a case of parish? The truth is that we saw already in the Gaonim that even if there was no rov and it was only 50-50, we would still apply the principle of Safek DeRabanan l'kula. But the Gaonim l'chatchila would have said, let's go basa rov. And that might impact even on the bracha, as we saw before, that he makes a bracha on Yudalit. And how can he make a bracha at Safek DeRabanan, Safek bracha l'hakel? You're going to have to say that somehow we were machriya the Safek, and based on, but that's only, but you could say that even in 50-50, we were machriya the Safek litzad that they're patur. But he's going to only apply that to the second day, to Tesvav, not to Yudal. Yeah, because otherwise, mevatel v'menu b'vadai mikra megil. So that's not an option. So we can't apply Safek DeRabanan l'kula to the second day, meaning the 15th. I'm sorry, let me say it again. We can't apply Safek DeRabanan l'kula to both the 14th and the 15th, because that would be oker the takana legamre. So we'll read on the 14th. Read on the 14th. And I think he's going to make a bracha on the 14th because of Hakros HaSafek. Anyway, getting back to our question here, how could the Gaonim apply rov here in Ayaros? It's a case of kavua. Menira loma de das haGaonim he kefisha mashkasam lielos gimel das aran. Yeah, that we're going to be machriya the Safek. To bedin Safek DeRabanan l'kula nemar diyesh lachriyas Safek l'tzad hakal. Okay, but I'm not sure why that has to do with rov exactly. V'nir desfile legaonim the afim ein kulo chumra el shnei hatzdadim shavim. Ach yesh siba acheres lachriya shelo nino kechumra shnei hatzdadim. So again, if you posit one opinion or one side of the Safek against the other, then both Stadim are equal. It's not a matter of Kula or Chumra, it's a matter of on which day should they be reading the Megillah. But if there's another, I guess, external reason to be Machriya the Safek, then Gam im Bazeh Nomar Lachriya Ulahakel Ki Echad Min Atstadim. But I'm not sure what that side is over here because he's saying Kol Kavur Kemechza Mechza. Unless he means something to Rabban Lakula. Let's see. Al Kain Kosvu Hagaonim Dikeven Sharov Ayoros Einamu Kofas Milstru. Yeshkan Sibel Achriya Volino Kriyas Amigila Be Kerov Ayoros. The Afal Pisha Kaimalon. To be Kavua Lo Aslina Basaruvi Yeshlomer Daho Lo Aslina Basar Bekavach Rov Eno Mipnei Sheika Gzeres HaKos V'Lodun Deleka Rov. So Kavua does not mean that we completely undermine the Rov. Elashapi Yesh Rov. Rak Ika Gzeres HaKos of the Bedora Kavua Lo Aslina Basar Rov. Well, he's saying a big lumdus here. He's saying that really Rov exists, even in the case of Kavua. But there's Xeris HaKosuv that we're not going to rely on Rov. We're not going to be matir based on Rov. The Rov is a powerful force, and it's active, but the Torah says we don't rely on Rov. The Dover HaKavua Havi Kmo, now he goes through the laws of Taroves, Kmo Dover Choshev Obiria. The lekabahu atera the bittul barov. So I guess he's saying that really the beria or the davar choshev should be batul, but we're not going to rely on rov to be matul. Hachanami the davar kavua lekabahu atera dalach achar rov. We're not going to be matir based on rov. There's a little problem here with the brackets here. It should say Kamosha Kosova Rashba. And then you should start brackets here, B'Toras Abayis. Vizel Shono. I think he's quoting the Rash. B'Tera de Parish. Sharelo Nofal Lanu Hasafek B'Kavua El B'Porish. Okay, but I'm not sure what's the big deal here. The B'Tera de Parish Lo Nofal Lanu Hasafek B'Kavua El B'Porish. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Can't cause a Rashi B'Chulin. Aval B'Nimtza. If you find a piece of meat in the middle of the city, denied, and that piece of meat obviously moved out of one of the butcher shops, so that's called nayid. Halach achar rov, dahashta lo kavur. V'chein kosev lehedje b'kovet shiurim ksuvas perkama osmem b'shem agrach dehad kavuahu kemetzal mechza ein pirushas the next of kilu leka ruba el gzeres hakosev the b'davra kavua lo azlin basa ruba. Avol be'emes ika ruba gam v'kavua el delo mahani. And this against the opinion of Rav Shimon Shkar. Fine. Sfile legaonim v'kema de ika ruba. So Rov Ayaras are not mukofas choma. Gam rak zeres hakot milu deraisa lo lezel basrei v'lodun al pi Rov. But rather, Lodun as Sador is Safek, we use 50-50. Mechtal mechtal. V'kol makom legabi mili DeRabanan shaper yesh kan siba lachria ulemezel basaruba. Wow. And usually we say kol kavua. We say kol the tika Rabbanan came doraisa tika. So even if it's the Rabbanan, but it's like a doraisa, and therefore we apply the principle of kavua, not the principle of rov. But he says no. We have enough of a reason to be machriya and rely on rov. Well, kenaz lina by yorasam supakos achar harov. What does it mean, rov ha'olam? L'fima should inspire b'divrei ha'gaonim nireh. The Yivarech b'Yudal. Oh, that's what we said. He makes a bracha in Tiveria on Yudal because we're machriya the Safek based on rov. Even though at some point he backtracks. Maybe it's mechza, I don't know. Shreya uchras Safek lomer zman hachiv hu b'Yudal. L'chein mashma mistimas hagaonim shelo kosvu sheyikar b'Yudalid below brach. Mashma svile kora b'Yudalid in brach. So that's going to be the achra, and we're going to be machriya based on rov because it's a DeRabanan. I'm just going to get myself a drink. V'hinei kasav aran al divrei ha'gaonim tafilu neimet havi Safek hashakol havalei Safek shel divreim lekula v'nimtza b'shneihem potem b'shneihem umevatel mimenu bevadai mikra megillah ficha kori b'rishon and potem b'sheni. That's the language of the Ran. B'yudvarav the kasav aran the afal pishlo nido and Safek Rabbanan lahakel mitzad achra. Ki echad mitztadei asafek mikom makom yesh bahach the Safek Rabbanan lekula didn't know saf. V'mitoch hasafek rashay linog lekula. So now he's applying that fallback position that even if there's no hachra b'toras vadai, we could still call it a Safek for niuk purposes and be noeg lekula. But then, if he does so, then he'll apply that to both Yudalid and Tesvav. He'll end up being oker. Achim yasa ken yevatel be mevatel mikra megil b'shnei hayomin. V'lo amrin and Safek Rabbanan lekula im al yidei ken tisbatel legamri takonas chachamim. he can't apply something to Lakula if it'll completely undermine the takana of the Chacham. Valkein Hachra Bazel Linog Dine Purim Biyom Rishon. I think you have to read it with a kubutz under the hey. Huchra Bazeh Linog Dine Purim Biyom Rishon. V'lo nispire taimo shel haran madu tzarich linog bepurim purim biyom harishon upot v'sheni. Right, amai lo neba ipcha. The yinog purim biyom sheni v'ya pot v'rishon. Hey, why does Yom Rishon get a better deal than Yom Sheni? Neuroloma desi laran v'ikar asafik on adonim. Sheba Safek al Shnei Yom Ilfanenu biyachad utzif lodu v'asachas al Shnei Yomim. So we have the 2 days of Purim, Yudalit and Tesvav, and we have to determine the Safek with regard to both days. V'kevat sheyev shal lifsok l'kula deshari likanis l'Safek. We can't apply Safek Rabban L'Kulia because we'll be okay the entire takon of Megillah and came to spatel takon Sigima as Lina L'Chumra v'chayav Linog Misafek din Purim. Okay, but why on the first day? Valkein Kori B'Yom Rishon. I don't know. He doesn't tell you why. El Desvil Arad the Achar Shekar B'Yom Rishon Ubol Fanenu Yom Tesvav. I guess he's saying that, when you first encounter the day of Yudalit, that's the day that you encounter first, and you know that you can't be Noeg L'Kula because then you'll have to be Noeg L'Kula on Tesvav as well, and then you'll be okay the Takana L'Gamre. So when you get to Yudalit, that's the point in which we suspend the Safek Dharma L'Kula, and you have to be Machmir, and then when we get to Tesvav, we can already say that you were Yotze on Yudal. Ubalafanenu Yom Tesvav. Now he asks the rabbi, what should I do on the 15th? I already read it on the 14th. Yesh Ladun Shuv B'Safek. Now we're free without any impediments. The pavement is clear to apply the principle of Safek Rabban L'Kula. V'loma demi'achar shekar b'yom Yudalid. If we're going to be Mekel on Tesvav, it's not a problem because he already read on Yudalid. He's lo tespatel takanas chachamim im lo yikra yom Tesvav. V'adrina l'klola this Safek Rabban L'Hakel v'shari l'kanes l'Safek v'linog l'Kula. So again, he gets to the first day, which is Yudalid. He can't apply the principle of Safek Rabban L'Kula because that would be okay the Takona L'Gamre. He reads the Megillah on Yudalid. Now he gets to Tesvav. When he gets to Tesvav, I can apply Safek Rabban L'Kula because I'm not being okay the Takona L'Gamre because he read on Yudalid. There's only one little gap that you have to traverse over here, that we're setting up halacha for everyone. I mean, Reuven, let's say, he's from the city of Tiberia, he did not read the Megillah on Yudalid. We're not going to tell him to read the Megillah on Tesvav. I guess we're going to pass him for the city of Tiberia and all its inhabitants that they're going to read the Megillah on Yudalid. Because of Aran, Uda Amrina B'Gemara Tveria v'Hutzal She'Yikorim Ben B'Yidalid v'Tesvav v'Midas Chachasidus Ayunogin Kain Mishum Desveika the Tveria Talia B'Magina v'Kis v'Mechasya v'Hutzal v'Bnei Shayu Nechlokim v'Kavol Zeomer Mukefes v'Zeomer Eina Mukefes v'Yikorim B'Lo Bracha This Safek Devreim Lo Boy Bruche. So I'm not sure why he can't read it with a bracha. Hine kosav aran lachriya the bitveria v'hutzal korim midina biyudalid ubelow bracha. That the din is that he reads on Yudal without a bracha. V'chak mimidas chasis so yikorim gam b'tezra. Mashkosav kein aran bitveria korim biyudal below bracha l'chor. Oh, Tzorpir, he's going to ask that question. Why does the Ran who was machriya on Yudalid omit the bracha? The kevan shechriya haran shekor raki b'Yudalid lo malo yivarek. Omnam ador v'vul fi mashkos liel. Mashkos of aran lachriya shekor b'Yudalid enu midin achros as-Safek. So let's try to remind ourselves why the Ran refuses to apply achros as-Safek here. I guess because to be machriya the Safek, we have to look at the Safek as it umbrellas, so to speak, and encompasses both Yudalid and Tesvav. And here we can't apply a kula of Safek or a kula because then you'll be okay the takon. He says, El Amrina di Aftavi Safek. Yef Shalin called Lagabi Yom Yudalid. Es Hachdina de Safek to Rabbanah Lekula. Came that din bol fanenu al shnei yomim. So we have to pass him for both days, so we can't apply something to Rabbanah Lekula on the first day. Im nifsal kukua tisbatel takodas chacham legamrei. Akemet shekorim biyom yudal rak mitoch hasafek shaper amaran de lo yivarech. So I think what he means is that it's not a din of hachra b'toras vadai, but rather it's a din of Safek mitzad nihug, and therefore you have to omit the bracha because Safek bracha is lahakel. V'lo amrina gabi bracha yesh lahachmir. Why? Because what he's afraid. V'lo amrina gabi bracha yesh lahachmir kidei shelo tispato legamrei takoros chacham de bracha. Kidamrinon kain legabi gufa chiyuv. As far as the chiyuv is concerned, we could say, well, if he's going to be making on both days, he'll be okay the entire takana. But as far as bracha is concerned, we don't have those rules. To amrina de kasha mispatelas hatakana azlina lahachmir le'inyan gufa chiyuv. Eno hechrech lahachmir. The kasha mispatelas hatakana leka lahach kula the Safek to Rabbanah lekula. To shari the kanes lebeis hasafek v'lino kula. So for the sake of salvaging the takana, so it shouldn't go down the tubes. So we can't be noig lekula on both days. And therefore we have to be machmir on the first day. Aval legabi bracha me'etzem hasafek atzmo adin omer shelo yivarech mishum safek bracha levatol. Okay, misafek lo yivarech af shetispato legamri takonas habrach. Okay, I think we'll stop here. And we'll see each other on Wednesday, am I correct? So between now and Wednesday, I'm going to maybe try to finish this siman on my own. It's almost finished. So that maybe on Wednesday, perhaps we can start a new sugya in Masechet Pesachim. Let's go back to the Gemara. We haven't learned the Gemara in a long time. So I think that might be what do you think? You have an opinion on this?
No, that sounds good.
All right. So Neder, again, I don't want to take a Neder, but I'll try to finish this up on my own because we did pretty much the whole picture. And then on Wednesday we could start a new sugya in the Gemara. Okay then?
Great. Thank you.
So I wish you a great day. Thank you so much.